Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel. It is now time to glue these servos into place. Seems I dripped a little hot glue in there while I was moving the glue gun around. It's all warmed up. No big deal, just a few strands. Just wanted to show you this part right here. I added a little patch of 1/64 inch ply. Two reasons. I wanted to raise this servo a little bit higher, just to have a little more clearance for the push rod over the top of this servo. But I also wanted the smoother surface for the glue adhesion. I just find that the hot glue sticks a little better to a nice smooth hard surface like the plywood versus just regular balsa wood. So I have this servo out of the way, and I'm going to start by moving this servo, applying some glue beneath it and against the wall, and then holding this servo in place firmly until the glue sets. Now, since the tail feathers are pinned flat, as they were in the previous video, let me just go ahead and pull this off to show you. Basically, it's just a pair of like drinks stirring sticks. I got a pack of these for $1 or $2 at one store or another. They look like they might be handy, and they're great for pinning tail feathers so that they stay in a neutral position. Now that I have these servos zeroed and I have the tail feathers in a neutral position, once I anchor these in place without having to apply pressure one way or another against the push rod, everything will be in general centered. I may need to do slight trimming, of course, but the servo and the push rod and the V-tail surfaces should be in alignment. Likewise with this one, once this is in position and glued down, everything should be reasonably centered, with the exception of any changes that need to be made as far as in-flight adjustment for trimming. And I'm going to have to do this off camera because the camera is going to be in the way. Okay, those of you who have watched a good number of my videos, especially my builds, you know that I'm not afraid to admit when I've made a mistake. I will show you my failures as well as my successes, and the hot glue was a total effing failure. I mean, on a colossal level. One of the servos sort of survived, but I had to destroy it to pry it back up off of the damn fuselage. And I used very small amount of hot glue. I knew this was a possibility, and I was being very careful about it. These servo cases are very thin plastic, and it melted and or infiltrated through the cracks. These things aren't screwed together. They're just held together by a little plastic rubber strap. There's no screws or anything. It's it's a $5 servo or a $6 servo, and they're itty bitty, so what do you want? Fortunately I have some spares. I will never do that again with a cheap servo, or certainly not any micro servos. That was a waste. Time, effort, and money. Anyway, shake it off. So I didn't damage the push rods when I took this thing out, and I managed not to do major damage to the fuselage. Damaged the floor here a little bit. I'm going to need to clean up in here a little bit and get rid of some residue and whatnot. And I tore up that pad, and this kind of got crushed a bit. So I'm kind of have to do a little cleanup in there and go back to square one on that. But I mean, it's definitely recoverable, not a problem. Yeah, it's a problem. It's just a smaller one. I'm going to think about this as I go. I'm not going to do two-sided tape with these things. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to do the two-sided tape, was the way they're built with this. You can see this plastic strap here. That's what holds the 3 layer levels of the servo together. You take that off and it comes apart. And I was worried that, you know, that provides a less than level surface because you have that strap. And you know, I was worried that the tape might not, you know, adhere well, or, you know, just be a, you know, one problem or another. And this turned out to be a, you know, a total failure. So what I may do is go back to my original way of mounting the servos, where I build a couple of blocks that position them and cross strap with a couple of screws to anchor them down. It's a little bit more weight, but considering the weight I have added and then had to pry out of this thing, because there is no easy way to get those that, you know, get that hot glue off once it's on. So I'll scavenge them for parts and go into my box of servos and pick out a couple of the either the exact same type I may have, or I have something very similar. I know I've got several different servos in the same size range. Okay, I have a spare pair of that same servo. It's a Blue Arrow ID 41919. And just to give you some specs, again, it's the same one that I had in here previous. It's a digital ultra micro precision servo, digital driver circuit, precision potentiometer, precise centering, metal output gear, coreless motor. Doesn't say anything about bearings. Anyway, so I've gone into a box of scrap wood that I have. I've got some plywood and some spruce stock and some thinner ply. And I'm debating not using the spruce. I sometimes use this to make servo blocks, but it does tend to split. And what I may end up doing is just cutting pieces of this scrap ply that I have. It's about 1/8 inch, 3/16 inch thick, and just stack it up and sand it into the shapes that I need to make the servo blocks. And then I'll use one of these 2 thicknesses of ply to make the straps to anchor them down. So I think I'm just going to set that aside. Servos are mounted, connected to the push rods. Everything was nice and easy to do. I ended up using multiple layers of the plywood. It was a piece of cake to drill some pilot holes, and there was no splitting of wood at all. So these can be removed nice and easy and replaced if one of them strips of gear or fails at some point. I've tested everything, bound the receiver, so the rest of the tuning will be done programmatically. I wish I could have gotten slightly shorter push rods. At some point I may tinker with that, but there seems to be good resolution so far. I mean, it is a nice servo. They're very inexpensive, but they are very precise. You can get very small amounts of motion out of them. So I'll just take this one step at a time at this point, and all that is left to do is to bolt on the tow hook. The reason I haven't put this on, it's all assembled. It just needs to get screwed on. The reason I haven't done it yet is because it's a lot easier to work on this plane without this on, because it's got a nice flat bottom, so it's easy to just let it sit and you don't have to have it rocking back and forth on the tow hook. I need to go over the covering again. Some of it is loosened up over the winter while things were sitting, so other than that, though, it's a completed airplane. So the next video will be of me balancing, getting the CG set, and then doing my first couple of test flights, which will probably just be you know, a schoolyard somewhere or a ball field, and just doing hand tosses to kind of dial things in and see how it flies. Well, thanks for watching. I appreciate all my subscribers. I appreciate everybody who comments. Please feel free to ask me any questions. If there's any types of videos you'd like to see, any planes you'd like to see built, please let me know. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Please click like. That's a huge help.